Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Javell. I make book related content, but I also make lifestyle content. But today we have my September reading wrap up, which I'm so excited about because in August I did not do a reading wrap up. I was in the worst reading slump. I read 3 books in August, literally 3 books. For September I came back hard. Okay, I read 12 books, so today we will be reviewing like a total of 15 books, which I'm so excited about. It's probably gonna be a very long video, so go ahead and get you a little snack, a little drink, maybe some cold brew, I don't know. But I'm gonna stop rambling because this video is probably gonna be long. Let's get into the video. Pull up in the make me say, let me do that shit again. So the first book I have is Summer Promises by Nora Roberts because I was still very much in like the summer vibe. So I got this book, and I always see her books all over the bookstores, Target, Barnes & Noble, literally any bookstore I go to, they always have like a lot of her books. And so I got this one. I feel like it's kind of like a novella because it has 2 stories in it and they're pretty short. But the first story is basically about a family who owns a mansion and they're going through a bit of financial difficulty, so their only resort is to kind of just sell the mansion. But the mansion has like a lot of history. Their ancestors owned the mansion and there's like a missing emerald necklace in the mansion and they can't really find it. But then a real estate mogul guy comes around and he wants to buy the mansion, and he kind of has beef with one of the daughters who's in the family because she's like very like sassy and she doesn't really want to sell the mansion because it's kind of like a family heirloom. And so they kind of have a little bit of banter going on. It's kind of like, oh, I kind of hate you, but I also kind of like you. And the second story is about the sister, and it's about a guy who comes to kind of do like the architecture for the mansion, and he kind of likes her, but she's not very interested. Again, it's also like third person, so she's not very like interested in him, but he keeps kind of, you know, pursuing her. And I don't know, it's just very cute. I feel like the stories are very short and they're a bit rushed, but I still enjoyed it. It was just like a really fun read. About 330 pages. I would rate this maybe like a 3.5 star. Then the next book I read is Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne, which I really like her writing because in my July reading wrap up I talked about reading The Hating Game, and I love that book so much, and it was just so fun. Like the banter was just so cute, and I saw like the reviews later and I saw that a lot of people thought it was annoying, but that was like a 5-star read for me. I really love The Hating Game, so I wanted to read this as well. And so Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne, it's basically about Ruthie, and she's kind of one of those people who you'd say like you have an old soul. Even though she's very young, she acts a lot older than she really is. And then there's Teddy Prescott, and Teddy Prescott is the son of the guy who owns the retirement home that Ruthie works at, and his dad kind of puts him on a mission to go and work at the retirement home because Teddy's kind of the black sheep of the family. He needs to learn responsibility basically, and so Teddy meets Ruthie and he's immediately obsessed with her. He basically adores the ground that she walks on, and Ruthie's kind of very like, I don't know, she's very like guarded. She's to herself. She doesn't really date. She doesn't really go out. She doesn't really want to leave like the retirement home because she lives there. And so Ruthie's friend is on a mission to get her to like online date, maybe find like a significant other. And so Ruthie's kind of just on this journey of like self-discovery, but also like dating and getting out there. And we get to see her and Teddy. So Teddy happens to become her neighbor, and so they hang out a lot, and we get to see their dynamic change over time. I just thought this book was super cute and it was super fun, and I love the banter as well. You can tell like that's one of Sally Thorne's like what's the word I'm looking for? That's like one of her specialties. Like, so the third book I read in August is actually Twisted Love by Huang, and it's a part of the Twisted series. I believe there's 4 books in the series, but they can all be read as standalones. So I read the first one, which is Twisted Love, and this book is like so popular on Book Talk, so I have to get all of them. I have to read all of them. I need to know, and they're super spicy, which I love. So basically what the book is about, it's about Alex and Ava. Alex is Ava's older brother's best friend, and Ava's older brother is actually going to live outside of the country because I think he's either doing his residency outside of the country or he's doing like doctor volunteer work outside of the country. But either way, he's moving, he's leaving her alone, and so he leaves Alex in charge of Ava, or like to protect her. So Alex moves into Ava's older brother's house, and so he's basically living next door to her. He's like super overprotective, and they kind of have a little bit of chemistry. You know, he doesn't really show emotions. He's like very stoic. He's very overprotective. She cannot be seen talking to any guys or anything, or he like freaks out. He like finds out where she is, and he always just like randomly appear like these random places to like find her. And so they kind of have like a little bit of chemistry going on, and eventually things usually escalate, as you know. And this is like a very spicy book. It's like it has a lot of dark twists, so if you are into that, I feel like the plot twist in this book blew my mind. Like my eyebrows burnt off, gone, because I was just, a lot of things that happened, like I just didn't really see coming, you know. And I don't know, their romance was just interesting. Let's just say that. It was just very interesting. I really liked it. So there's like the brother's best friend trope. There's like the opposites attract trope. This book is very much romance with like a hint of suspense. This book actually came with a warning because it has just crazy stuff going on. The warning literally says this book contains possessive, morally gray alpha pole and explicit sexual content and profanity. So I'd definitely say this is like an 18+ book. If you don't like spicy stuff or like, you know, a lot of explicit words, I would not read this book. I would definitely say 18+. I would rate this book like a 4 stars because I liked it. All right, next book I read is The Negotiator by Avery Flynn, which I haven't really seen many people talk about this book before, so obviously I was happy to be one of the first. But this book is basically about a billionaire executive Sawyer, and he only cares about work, work, work. So his mom's on a mission to kind of marry him off, get him a wife, get him to start a family. And so his brother puts out an ad for a buffer because at this point his mom is becoming a bit of a nuisance, always like popping up with random girls. And so he wants a buffer. So here comes Clover. She does her interview, she gets the job, and Clover is on the way to a quick promotion because not only did she just get promoted from buffer to fake girlfriend, but Clover is obviously like a ray of sunshine. She's very like outgoing, she's carefree, and she cares about like just other things that's not work. And so she gets put in a position to kind of get Sawyer out of his comfort zone and get him to do a bunch of things that like he doesn't really care about, but she's kind of broadening his horizons, and one thing leads to another. And in order to get his mom to back off some more, she got promoted from fake girlfriend to fake fiance, and so we see their relationship kind of become a disaster with all like the fake lying and stuff. But it's also super cute, and we get to see just how the relationship grow over time. Super cute. We get fake dating trope, we get grumpy versus sunshine. So if that is any of your favorite, you know, tropes, this is a good book for you. I would say this is a 4-star read. Next book I read is Hating You by J.L Beck, which I'm just gonna say right now, I regretted reading this book so much. Even though I finished, I don't know how I finished, but this book was so freaking weird. So this book is basically about a guy who's out to get revenge on a girl because the girl testified and got his brother arrested. So he's out to ruin her life. She starts going to the same school as him because her dad's kind of forcing her to help him get to do a bit of networking for him. And so she goes to the school with the guy who obviously hates her. He like pops up in her dorm room and like threatens her, and even when she reports him, it just gets ignored by like campus security because the guy is very wealthy and powerful, and his dad's like the president of the university, and all like this stuff happens, like just very weird. And I don't really know what to think about this book. He like manipulates her, consensual things happen in this book. I don't know, it was just so hard to read for me because it was just so like, I don't know, it was just so icky. But like this book is like a really good way to see how like wealth and power really does control society. Next book I read is First Love Takes Two by Sajni Patel, and this book is one of my first books that I've read by an Indian author. And this book is basically about a girl who is in her residency and she's about to become a doctor, and she is also just in a very transitional period in her life because she's finishing her residency, she's looking for a new job, her roommate just got married and her roommate's moving in her husband, so now she needs a new apartment or a new house. And so she goes looking for an apartment on kind of like a short notice where she gets in a weird situation where she has to live with her ex because the apartment she gets has contingencies that just so happen that her ex is also living there. And so there is also like the forced proximity trope in here because they're both living together and their relationship didn't really end on the best term. So it's a bit awkward, which like for me, I feel like you are in your residency, like there's just no reason why you have to live with your ex. Like even if you found somebody's basement to live in, like there's just no world where living with your ex would have been an option, especially when you guys ended on such bad terms. This book also has like a forbidden love trope because her ex Daniel, he's black while she's Indian, and you know sometimes how race relations, yeah. Also they talk about mental health in here, which is kind of like a taboo topic, especially when you are a minority and when you are in the healthcare. I feel like mental health and healthcare is not really taboo, but it is like a weird topic. And so we get to see that in here. And also they talked a lot about Indian food. This book was okay. I would say like 3.5 stars. It wasn't like my favorite book. I feel like the romance could have been better. Next book I read is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, and oh my gosh, this book, I'm just gonna say it made me boohoo cry. Like when I tell you, it didn't make me cry as hard as Reminders of Him, but this book made me cry so much, and the cover is super cute. I really like the little purple color. But this book is basically about a couple who is married and they're going through a bit of a hard time in their relationship because they struggle with infertility. But like for me, being a mom is like one of my greatest desires, and I feel like especially for a woman who wants to have children, it is just like infertility is one of the hardest things to deal with. And so I really felt for the main character. I think her name was Quinn. Yeah, I really felt for the main character, and I always try to like relate myself to like the main characters and what they go through. And so I kind of like put myself in the position and was like, this would be so hard to deal with. And so there is, I think it was chapter 21. Chapter 21 made me cry so freaking bad. I was like crying in my bathroom because I could not take it. It was actually very terrifying, but it was very interesting, and the husband eventually did something that makes me just want to hurt him. But I would say this was a 5-star read for me. I really liked it. It has Knowing the Timelines, and it also has the cheating trope, which I feel like is not really a spoiler. It does have the cheating trope, and I feel like a problem with the couple in here is that their number one issue was that like they did not communicate. And for someone who is an over communicator, I just could not really understand like why, like if you guys love each other so much, like why is it so hard for you guys to communicate? Like all of this could have been avoided if you guys were effectively communicating. But that's basically what All Your Perfect's about. 5-star read for me. I don't really care what anyone says about Colleen Hoover. I will go to fight behind her. This book got me out of my reading slump, so thank you so much. The next book I read is Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy, which I really like her writing. I've been reading the Off Campus series and I love that, so I had to get this book because I think it's her latest book actually. So Good Girl Complex is basically about Cooper and Mackenzie. Cooper is kind of a local townie. He lives in kind of a college town, but it's also like a beach town where a bunch of like rich snobby kids go to school, and he's just a local guy. He works at like a restaurant when one day he gets into a fight with a rich snobby guy, and the guy gets him fired. And so Cooper is very mad about it. He's out for revenge. He is like, I need to find this guy and his girlfriend, and I'm gonna date his girlfriend and get her to break up with him and basically make him sad and ruin his life, which obviously the boyfriend's like not the best guy, so that might or might not be a really easy job. And so we get to see that in this book with Cooper and Mackenzie. We get both point of views. We also, I don't know, we get both point of views, but I feel like there just wasn't very much chemistry beyond like physical. Like they were just very physically attracted to each other. I feel like that's why they thought they had something, but I feel like outside of the physical attraction there just wasn't very much chemistry between them. I read to 334 pages, but I only had maybe like 10 pages left. was not the biggest fan, but in this book I just felt like it missed like a lot of points, and I feel like it was just very similar to like Outer Banks or After. Like the way the characters, the tropes, the characteristics, everything was just very similar to Outer Banks and After series, which it just felt very repetitive, and I feel like it just didn't really add anything different. And so that's why for me this is like a 3-star. I just didn't even care to finish like the last 10 pages because it was kind of just like, this book should have been wrapped up at like 300 pages. Why we keep going? I don't know. I finally read The Love Hypothesis, which I'm just gonna go ahead and say right now, this is a 5-star read for me. So The Love Hypothesis is basically about Olive, who is a PhD student. She's a science girly. I'm a science girly, so obviously I love it. So she's a PhD student and she's just very selfless, and her best friend Anna, I say Anna, I do not know how to say her name. It's A-N-H. I don't know. But basically, she wants her best friend to date this guy that she went on like one date with that she's not very attracted to, or she didn't even like, and her friend feels like it breaks girl code. So she's on kind of like the hunt to convince her friend like, I moved on from him, I don't really care, you can date him. And so she like sees this professor. He's like a professor in her PhD program, and she like sees him. She randomly kisses him when her best friend was almost like on the way there or whatever. And so they kind of get into like a little fake dating situation, and his name's Adam, and we get to see like how she like convinces him to do like the strangest things, or like her friends put her in like weird positions to do like the strangest things with Adam. And I don't know, I just feel like their chemistry in this book was just, it was just off the charts. Like, this is how you write about chemistry between characters. And I did a bit of tabbing in this book. I really loved it. Like, everything about this book just made me like swoon. Like, it was just so cute. On Book Talk, a lot of people say this book is very spicy. It had like one spicy scene, so if you're looking for like spicy books, I would say like this is like okay. It's like a level 1 spice, I feel like. And it also has LGBT characters, so if you're interested in that. It was kind of predictable, but like in the best way. I feel like this is just like a really good feel-good book. I love that they wrote about science, the science girlies. This one is for the science girlies, okay? Obviously fake dating trope. Adam is a little bit grumpy. He's very much like stuck in his ways. He does not have the best reputation in like their PhD program because he's like very stern. He's very like serious. He usually like shoots people down, and so a lot of people hate him, but he's just very different with Olive. He has like a really soft spot for her. He literally like melts for her, which I love so much. And yeah, their chemistry is just like amazing. I love the banter as well. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, definitely 5 stars for me. The next book I read after that is Slammed by Colleen Hoover. I feel like a lot of books after this will be Colleen Hoover because I was kind of on a Colleen Hoover binge. But the next book I read after that is Slammed by Colleen Hoover, and it's her first ever book, which I feel like you can see her growth as an author with her newer books. This book is basically about a girl, Lakin, and Will. So Lakin, her dad just dies, and so I don't remember what town or what state they lived in, but they moved from that state to Michigan, which everyone knows Michigan has coldest winters. It's so cold over there. Their winters are treacherous. But she moves there in like the middle of winter. Her neighbor is Will, who is a 21-year-old guy who lives with his younger brother who's like 6 years old, and Lakin has a younger brother who's also 6 years old, so they're quickly friends. And there's a lot of like forced proximity here because Lakin's kind of forced to see Will or hang out with Will because their little brothers are always together, and so they have an attraction to each other. They go out on a date, and the next coming Monday, Lakin goes to school and she sees this guy, and I feel like this might be a bit of a spoiler, so if you have not read Slammed, please skip this part. But she goes to school the next day. Who does she see at school? Who does she see? Will. Will at high school when he's 21. So obviously like they cannot be together, which I feel like this book kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit because, you know, even though she's legally an adult, she's still in high school. You know, there's like a bit of a power dynamic going on, which just, I just didn't really know how to feel about this book. Like, is this okay? I don't really know. So she's like very upset about it, and she kind of understands what's going on, but because she is young and immature, it makes her not really be logical or like rational or reason about the situation. So she kind of gives Will a hard time throughout the book. And so wait, let me look at my notes and make sure I'm not skipping anything. So yeah, obviously forbidden love trope, and this is a YA book. I hate YA because the characters are usually young and impulsive, and for some reason I just don't really have patience for like them being so irrational. It just makes me so mad. And so for that reason I was like not liking the book, because she just made me so annoyed all the time. And I feel like she just cared about herself. Like she didn't really care about what Will was going through. For me, this was like a 3.5 star. I feel like it was still a good book. I just hated looking character. She was just so annoying. And this book also reminded me of Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. I think it's because they both have YA characters who are just very impulsive and irrational. Then after that I read Point of Retreat, which is the sequel to Slammed, and it picks up a few months after Slam ends. And there's a lot of transitioning going on in their lives right now. There's a lot of big changes, and they're both kind of in charge of taking care of their younger siblings, and they are both in college, so they're navigating that as well. And we get to see some new characters in this book, which oh my gosh, I don't remember her name, but there's a little girl who comes in and she's like super cute and precocious, and I loved her. And she was like friends with Cal and the younger brother. And there's like a lot of changes when like a really bad accident happens and Lakin's life is kind of like put in danger, and she gets in an accident, and we get to see how they navigate that. I don't know, I didn't finish this as well because I don't know, I just found it was kind of boring and repetitive and I was just over it. So I would also say this is like a 3.5 stars. Moving on, next book I read is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover, and this book is about Dean Holder and Sky. They both have pretty bad reputation. There's like rumors about Dean being, you know, promiscuous and very like aggressive. There's like rumors about him going to juvie for a year. And there's also rumors about Sky, even though she's never been to public school before. There's like rumors about her being also promiscuous and kind of like, I don't like this word, but like slutty. Dean Holder and Sky meets one day, and even though she knows his bad reputation and he kind of heard some stuff about her, they're like very attracted to each other and they cannot stay away from each other. They keep like randomly running into each other, and so he's like pursuing her a little bit just because there's just like a magnetic pull towards each other. And Dean feels like he knows Sky from somewhere, but he cannot really figure it out. And Sky has a bit of memory loss, so she doesn't really know Dean at all. And we see them start hanging out a lot, and there's just a lot of like chemistry between them. And then when Sky starts to remember some stuff, it takes her on a really hard journey where luckily she had someone like Dean to stand by her. And Dean is like one of those like perfect book boyfriends because he's just so supportive, and I just loved how he was really there for Sky. This book has so many plot twists. Like if you've never read Hopeless before, which like I feel like everyone has because it's also one of Colleen's like earlier books, if you've never read this book before, I promise you the freaking plot twists are insane. They are mind-blowing, and I really like this book. It did make me very sad because like the things that happened to her, she just did not deserve. Like she was just, you know, a child, and so that for me was just very hard to read. But outside of that, and like even after like she found out like the things that happened, and oh my gosh, it's just so heartbreaking. So trigger warning, there's like child SA in this book, so if that's like triggering for you, do not recommend because it's like very detailed. After that I read Finding Cinderella. I forgot about Finding Cinderella. After that, I read Finding Cinderella, which is a part of the series. So there's like the Hopeless series, which is Hopeless, Losing Hope, Finding Cinderella. I don't know if All Your Perfects is a part of the series, but I also read that. And then Finding Perfect, which I haven't read yet. So Finding Cinderella is basically about two characters from the Hopeless series in the first two books. And it's about Daniel and Six. Daniel's kind of hiding in a school supply closet because he does not have a third period and he does not want like the administration to find out and put him in a class. So every third period he hides in that class. One day some random girl comes in. It's like a dark supply closet. One day random girl comes in and she's like crying. He goes out of his way to comfort her. I don't know, they just have like a really cute meet cute. And then next day she like comes back to the supply closet and she's like, oh, I won't ever come back here because I am leaving. like I'm literally moving to another country. Something happened, one thing like led to another, and things took place. Okay, ever since she's left, like Daniel has just been like looking for her everyone, because he didn't get her name, he didn't see her face, because obviously it was a dark supply closet, and so every girl he sees, he thinks it's her, and he kind of gives her a nickname, Cinderella. He ended up going to Sky's house and he's hanging out there when he meets Six, and he's also very attracted to Six, and so they start dating. One thing leads to another. Is she Cinderella? We don't really know. That's why you have to read the book. It's so good. Plot twist is literally crazy. It literally blew my mind. My head flew off my body because that plot twist. I definitely recommend for the plot twist. Also, they had really good banta, and yeah, it was just really cute. Really cute book. That was a 5-star for me. I actually read it on my phone. I need a physical copy of it because it was just so cute. After that, I actually read Losing Hope by Colleen Hoover as well, which this book is about same thing as Hopeless, but it's from Dean Holder's point of view, and I feel like this book was kind of necessary because we get to see exactly what he was thinking in certain moments when certain plot twists happen, and so there's just not really much to say about it. This was a really good book as well. I really liked it. I don't want to give it a rating because I just feel like it was pretty similar to Hopeless, but it's just from Dean's point of view. Nora People is basically about Canelle and Marianne. Marianne is very wealthy. Canelle's mom is like the house manager, house cleaner for Marianne's family, and so they interact a lot solely on the basis that when he comes to pick up his mom, he talks to her, and usually he arrives a bit early just to speak to Marianne, which Marianne has a bit of a reputation at school to be weird. A lot of people do not like her, so Canelle goes through like a weird phase where he's kind of embarrassed of her, but when they're on one-on-one, he really does like her, and so we see them develop like a really cute friendship where they're like very candid with each other. They're very honest, and I think they're both like very smart, but they are being held captive a bit by society and expectations, and mostly caring about what other people think. And so we get to see that where their friendship kind of developed from friendship to romance, and then over time we kind of just get to see very much off and on with them, and we get to see them grow up and the dynamics change, where when Marianne was in high school, she was a bit of an outcast and a lot of people did not like her, and so Canelle did some things that just wasn't very nice. When they get older and they're in university, we get to see the dynamics change between that, where Marianne is more accepted by people and Canelle's not, but Marianne still goes out of her way to kind of be there for him when they reconnect, and we just see them being off and on all the time. They go from like Northwest Ireland to Italy to Sweden, and so they're kind of like bouncing around and they're constantly like reconnecting. So this is really a story of like a mutual fascination, love and romance, or like love and friendship. I know a lot of people really like this book. I see a lot of like mixed reviews about it, because when I was reading it, I was kind of just like, this is kind of weird, or like, oh, where's the story going? And I would go on TikTok to see the book reviews, and people either said like this is the best book I've ever read, or like people are just like, como se dice, stupid. And so I don't know, I felt like this book was okay. I would say like a 3.5 stars. It wasn't like terrible, but it wasn't like the best book I've ever read. I believe that concludes my reading wrap up. I've been talking for like 2 hours. Please leave a comment below your favorite book that you've read in September. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time.
Ooh, I'm gonna pull up shawty to the side. She keep coming at me every day and night. When I left in my life